Hello and welcome to week 3. We will start in week 3 with the Dell case study to work on mini papers. So I thought it would be a good idea to talk a little bit about why we are doing these mini papers and what I expect in terms of format and in terms of research that you have to do for those papers. So why, what, and how on the mini papers required in ITM300. So, first question I hear sometimes is why do we have to do this? Well, ITM300 is a graduate course. For some of you, it's the first course in the ITM program. Some of you have already done some graduate work, so it's probably not that much of a new thing for you. But for those of you who are new to graduate work, let me just summarize that in a graduate class you are not only supposed to read stuff and do your homework, but the whole purpose of a graduate class is that you show your ability to compile information and data, to process it and to condense it. So you're not only reading data and show in tests that you understand what you read, but that you can also compile data on a topic and condense it, that you can paraphrase what you read in literature, and ultimately that you understand what you're reading and that you can put it in context. That is really the skill set that is expected from a graduate student. I also can tell you that that skill set is very useful in your professional career. I use it all the time in my job. Whenever you have to work on a topic that you didn't know before, you do the research, you summarize the research, and after a week or two, you can talk with everybody and you seem like you're an expert because you have really put yourself in that position. So in those mini reports, that's what you do. You become an expert on a specific topic. So for example, if you pick COBIT or ITIL, you dive deep into COBIT and ITIL. And you pick that topic, as I said, COBIT or ITIL, you go beyond the textbook, you go beyond Wikipedia and Google. Some people think research means that you go to the internet, you type in COBIT and ITIL and you read the first 3 articles that come up in Google. No, that's not it. In a graduate class, what is required that you read quality papers and that you report on quality papers. When we talk about quality papers in academic context, that means peer-reviewed papers, not just the first thing that comes up on Google. Now, of course, some of the things that come up on Google are good and make sense, and Wikipedia, for example, is a good starting point to get your research done. But when you look at Wikipedia, you see that Wikipedia actually uses a lot of citations and sometimes leads you to quality articles. With GGU Library, we do have a great resource, and I'll talk about how you create your report. And the GGU Library is a great resource for this. So go beyond the textbook and go beyond Wikipedia and Google. And try to highlight the pros and cons. Sometimes when I read a report on COBIT or ITIL or any of the other topics, it almost sounds like you read one white paper on the topic, oftentimes by one of the proponents, and it sounds like the greatest thing on the planet. But then the question is, why do only some companies use COBIT and why do only some companies use ITIL? Or why do some companies use waterfall and some other companies use agile development? What I expect is that you have an academic discussion, meaning you talk about the pros and cons. So when you talk about COBIT, think about and find resources that tell you why not everybody is using it. If you're looking at ITIL, also try to put it in perspective and say what might be the downside. Why do some people not use it, or why do more and more people use it? So try to put it in perspective. Try to put it in perspective of our class. Finally, how do you do the report? One question I get all the time is how many pages, how many pages? The page count is not that important. I would expect at least 4 to 5 pages are required in order to write a good report. But if it's 3 pages, but it's a really good report, that would be okay. And if it's 10 pages, then it's a really good report, that would be okay as well. More than 10 pages would be excessive. Remember, I have to read all this stuff. And less than 3 pages, I don't think will be a good report. How? Research the topic, use the GGU library. The GGU library has access to ProQuest and other digital databases that you can use. You can also use business literature, a CIO magazine, other sources, but you should have several peer-reviewed quality foundational pieces in your work. And the topics that I selected there on a topic list, all of them do offer quality literature that you can find in the library. And you can augment that with business literature, for example, in order to figure out what is the current status of a topic, for example, what is being discussed today, because the peer-reviewed literature usually lags a few years behind. We are using APA format, and sometimes I'm being asked, why are we using APA format? APA is very widely used in academic institutions, and especially in graduate classes. And one of the reasons why I like to use it is that it answers a lot of questions that somebody might have. It gives a very clear guidance on how you do citations, in-text citations, how the citation is formatted at the end of the report in the literature section, how the report is formatted and which elements you need. And there are plenty of free resources in the GGU library. There's a resource about APA formatting, but also on the internet you find a lot of style guides and resources on how to format your paper in APA style. Finally, the report should have at least 3 parts, maybe 4 or 5. First part is the introduction of the topic, and in the introduction you should introduce the topic and say why it's relevant in the context of IT management, because that's what our class is about. The second part is the main part of the report. This is where you summarize the results of your research and quote your sources. And then finally, there's a summary in which you can basically summarize what you have reported upon and also what you have learned. Now, APA style discourages first-person speech, so do not write reports that say in any way or form, you know, I think this, I did this, etc. What you should do is report on your findings, and when you summarize, then you summarize this, and when you voice an opinion, you can say this as a neutral observer. So for example, the research indicates that, and then you come with your finding. Okay, I hope you find this useful. This applies primarily to the 3 mini papers. We're practicing this a little bit with a Dell case study that you work on in week 3. That's why the FAQ is in week 3, but you can reuse this for all the 3 papers. I didn't talk much about the presentation, but the presentation is basically just following the content of your paper, and you put it in a PowerPoint and post it so your other students can see this and benefit from it. I don't give points for how fancy a PowerPoint presentation is, and make sure in the PowerPoint presentation you also quote your sources. That's probably the most important thing. And don't put too much text on each slide. You know, try to just focus on the main points. Okay, hope this is helpful. Hope you enjoy the class so far. And I enjoy reading your comments in the discussion, very lively discussion in week 2. I love it, and keep that up and keep the good work on homework up. Looking forward to the rest of the class, and when you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'll make sure to respond back within 24 hours. Thanks and have a great week. Bye-bye.